Ontario public schools have been on rocky, unstable ground since at least 2019, and it lends the question, do Ontario students need school choice?
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Stephen Lecce's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho.
Tamara Ugolini here with Rebel News. As threats of union strike action persist in the Ontario education sector, amid ongoing bargaining and negotiations failures between the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, that's EFTO, and the Ontario government under the portfolio guidance of Education Minister Stephen Lecce. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario is soliciting member votes for potential strike action amid the crumbling governmental negotiations. A media release from EFTO reads, bargaining has stalled at EFTO's Education Worker Central Table. At its teacher/occasional teacher central table, EFTO has repeatedly tried to get the government to talk about important issues like improved supports for students with special needs, violence in schools, compensation, fair and transparent hiring practices, workload and working conditions, and smaller class sizes. The government has refused to engage in any meaningful discussions about these education priorities. Ontario Education Minister Stephen Lecce has since published a statement on the potential strike action. Quote, threatening another strike and creating anxiety for parents and students just weeks before the start of the school year is unnecessary and unfair, end quote. Minister Lecce has been heavily criticized for unjustifiably keeping kids out of in-person learning for the longest duration of any developed nation throughout the COVID pandemic, a move that Premier of Ontario Doug Ford appeared even proud of.
So effective immediately, we're extending the emergency declaration and prolonging the stay-at-home order province-wide for an additional 2 weeks, for a total of 6 weeks. We have implemented the strictest measures in all of North America.
Now Lecce claims that his goal is to continue providing students with stability. Have a listen.
We're disappointed that the NFL has made a decision to hold a strike vote on just weeks before kids are going back to school. We think it's so important that kids remain in school after all the difficulty they face. And honestly, I'm not sure what's more important than stability for kids.
Lecce recently introduced the Better Schools and Student Outcomes Act, and through these new legislative powers provided to Lecce, the act is intended to increase school board accountability and empower the voices of parents while pressuring school boards to get back to basics. Yet we see halfway through the summer break, EFTO's president, that's Karen Brown, posted the following clip on her social media, referring to the number of growing parents concerned with the quality of education in the public system as, well, transphobic.
With the alarming rise of homophobia and transphobia, disguised as concern for our children, our federation's work to build a more just society is even more necessary. We must continue to work to ensure human rights, equity, and inclusion are not eroded.
Well, the school system in Ontario becomes inherently hazardous, with violent occurrences up 70% since 2017, it appears that the public system is failing both students and educators. Ontario has over 2 million students in kindergarten to grade 12, with 3 times as many students enrolled in school than any other province. And these students have been subjected to persistent school closures and strike action since the Work to Rule campaign began in late 2019, which saw 4 major teachers' unions across Ontario advocating against school budget cuts and for things like smaller class sizes. Is it time, then, for parents to demand school choice in Ontario, where parents have the freedom and financial support of the province to send their children to a private, charter, or public school of their choice, or, of course, educate them at home, as we see successfully implemented in Alberta? For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. The increasingly ideological priorities of school boards is why we launched a campaign at stopclassroomgrooming.com. Classrooms are for educating, not indoctrinating young children with radical sexual ideologies. If you agree, then please sign our petition and send an email blast to your provincial education minister. All of that can be found at stopclassroomgrooming.com.